702.
World of Work.
Let's get straight into our World of Work feature now, where we are discussing how to recover from a bad interview. Like, what mistakes do you often make in interviews, and how have you remedied those? That's the question, really, that we're asking this morning. We've got Zanele Lecage, who is a senior talent attraction specialist, who's joining us now on via Zoom. Zanele, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Yeah, let's start with just some of the common mistakes that applicants make during interviews. What are they?
So definitely the biggest one is the lack of preparations. So not researching about the company, the role. Number two is poor communication. So rambling and not answering questions directly, not dressing appropriately, for the interview. Also, speaking negatively about previous employers, and just like lack of confidence and appearing disinterested in the interview. I mean, obviously, nerves always get the best of us, but those are just some of the most common mistakes that applicants would make during interviews.
Okay, so when you've made a mistake like that, how do you recover from it? And I imagine you need to know that, oh my God, I just messed up there by speaking negatively about my company, or I just rambled there for a bit. What's the best thing to do when you have messed up like that? Is it best to apologize, or just pick up where you left off and just continue like nothing happened?
I think obviously self-awareness is very important to kind of just reflect after every interview. But I think the most important thing is don't dwell on it too much. However, learn and move forward. So I would suggest generally, for you to send like a thank you interview, a thank you email after the interview, also reinstating your interest. Sometimes we have bad days, and also analyze what exactly went wrong. So was it your communication style? Did you seem disinterested? Did you not research enough about the company, and actually work from there? So that's also very important. So understanding, okay, this is where I went wrong. And also, when you apply for other opportunities, use that experience to do better next time. So I think those would be, the most important things to remember. So really not sitting on it too much, but also just acknowledging and emailing the interviewers, reinstating your interest, and as well as really looking at, okay, what went wrong and how can I move forward from here.
011-883-0702. I'd like to hear from you. Also on the WhatsApp line on 072-702-1702. What was your worst job interview experience? What happened? Maybe you were the applicant, you were the one being interviewed, or maybe you were the one who was interviewing the applicant. What was it about that experience that made it worst for you? And if you were able to recover as an applicant, how did you manage to recover? As an interviewer as well, if you see that someone is struggling a bit, how were you able to help them recover? Yeah, please give us a call to share your experiences with us, or WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Zanele, I think, yes, we can talk as much about how the applicants themselves, what they need to do to recover, but I would imagine there's something that the employer can also do. So that person who's sitting in that interview panel and they're asking the questions, and they can see that someone is struggling or they rumbled a bit and they've just lost their confidence because they realize they made a mistake. What can they do to make it like a lot less tragic? Because that's how it comes across to us as the applicants in that moment. We just feel like, oh my God, I've just messed up this moment. What can interviewers themselves do to help the applicants recover when they've made mistakes?
Yeah, generally, if you're a person that interviews quite often, we generally have like interview guides, so basic guidelines. We'd create guidelines for our interviewing team. And when you see something going wrong, I think the most important thing not to do as an interviewer is to tailor or assume that this is what, a candidate is saying. Rather, maybe if it's something relating to the role, rather rephrase the question, because sometimes it could be a language barrier issue, right? So rephrase the question to make sure they understand what you're asking. And also, just ask them to take a moment, to breathe. Like I said, nerves do get the best of us, when we're interviewing. Ask them to take a moment. Sometimes people are also going through some issues. Maybe they had a bad day, something bad really happened. So also empathize with them, be empathetic towards them, understand that they're also human. They are bound to make mistakes, and make them feel as comfortable as possible, and if it means, rescheduling an interview. So for example, with virtual interviews, a lot of the times we experience like connectivity issues with candidates, that shouldn't just, put them at a deficit that, okay, no, we're not going to continue with this person because we couldn't hear them. It could be something as simple as that. So find out actually what's wrong. But, obviously, it can't be that, the entire interview goes bad. So the candidate as well needs to show some sort of interest in the company. It's a very different situation if someone is not showing interest, it did not prepare, is not dressed appropriately. So there you can see that, okay, this person is not, in this interview. They're just doing it for the sake of, trying to secure a job. So it's also understanding the environment, being aware. And if it's an in-person interview, we read body language. Are they comfortable? Have you created a comfortable environment for them? Like, there's really no need to be hostile, because at the end of the day, as the interviewer, you will be working with this person.
Yeah, I've got a question here from someone who's asking, when you make a mistake, should you apologize?
I think, if you were aware, because sometimes we're not aware that we've made a mistake. Like I said, send a thank you email. And I think if a person generally, as a person who interviews almost on a daily basis, when I decline a candidate, I do tell them that, okay, next time, Zanele, please fix this, work on your communication style. So also what you can do is also ask, hi, thank you for the interview. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Ask for feedback. Ask, okay, what do you think I can improve on, especially if they come back with a rejection? Ask them, is it my CV? Is it the way I represented myself? How can I obviously fix this in future? And there's no better person to ask than the person who actually interviewed you, so that in your next opportunity, you're actually able to work on it. Because if you just make an assumption that, oh no, I spoke too quickly, I may not perceive it like that. So when they do reject you, ask for feedback. Like, can you give me a bit detailed feedback, what it is about the interview that didn't, work well? And from there on, you should be able to tell. And then you can, send an apology after that. But I think from the get-go, just send a thank you for the opportunity. Because also you don't want to appear as not being confident, right? Just reinstate your interest in the job. And when they reject you, ask for detailed feedback around, okay, what can I do better? How can I do better going forward?
Okay, but then in that moment when you've said something that you thought, maybe that is not the right place to say, oh, I'm so sorry, I apologize, can I start from scratch? Just, be confident, move on, and once they've rejected you, then you can ask for, reasons and take it forward from there.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, also, I think sometimes the common mistake people also make is when they don't understand a question, they just answer it based on what they think the interviewer means. It's also okay to actually say, Clement, I don't understand. Can you please rephrase that? So it's how you say it. Don't just, apologize. Like I'm saying, you're coming across as very unprepared or not so confident. So rather say it in a different way. That's okay. We've got a lot of tools in terms of AI that can assist you in interview preparation. What kind of questions can you ask the interviewer? And when you don't understand, just say, can you please repeat the question, or can you please rephrase it?
And once they've rephrased, then you still don't understand. What do you do?
I mean, and you still...
Can I be honest and say, I honestly, guys, I really don't know how to respond to that. I really don't.
And you really can, because also what that shows that is that, okay, guys, I don't know everything. And it's okay not to know everything. I think the misconception that we have is that when we go for a job interview, you need to know every single thing. Like, you're not going to, even like, let's just realistically speaking, like in school, when you have an exam, you don't know every answer. Right, but you can know maybe 90%, 70% of the answers. It's okay to say, I'm afraid I just don't know. I don't know how to answer that, or I still don't understand. And that's okay. And we can move forward. And for the interviewer, then it's their responsibility to kind of either break down that question for you or ask it in different ways that will help you understand what you want to ask. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think sometimes we are in such pressure, in a lot of pressure during interviews and you're right, we end up responding to things we don't even understand, which just makes things worse for us. And but also, if we're being honest, Zanele, sometimes the people and interviewers are not so friendly to us. Like they've not created an environment for you to be honest enough to say, hey, I really don't understand that, or I just don't know how to respond to that. Molefe is in Pretoria. I'm going to your calls now on 011-883-0702. Molefe, good morning.
Hi, morning, Clement. I just want to give an input on how we assisted a candidate to recover. We were having an interview. We had a panel, and just before the candidate could come into an interview room, we could pick up that his body language was restless. When he got in, he could not answer the questions, and what we did was we then gave him a set of questions and asked him to do a written response to the questions instead of the verbal. He aced it, and we gave him an opportunity, and he's one of the high flyers in the organization at the moment. Instead of totally dismissing for not being able to answer, we read the body language, and as a result, we gave him a written interview, and he aced it.
Sure, that's quite incredible, Molefe. Thank you for sharing that with us in Pretoria. Zanele, there's an option. So, you see, and sometimes you do find people that they can see that you've got the qualifications. They can see that maybe you're also struggling with confidence, but they know that shouldn't be what takes away this opportunity from you. So, here's a company that then says, oh, let's do a written one, and you ace it, and now you become a valuable member of this institution.
Yeah, definitely. I think, that's great, because in reality, also roles are different, Clement. Like, you have roles where the person needs to be technically strong, so communication wouldn't be a big part. Verbal communication wouldn't be a big part of the role, just as long as they understand. So I think it's also dependent on the instance and the role. So like I said earlier, it's very important to kind of like read the room as an interviewer as well, that okay, this person actually is capable, and could be, a great addition to the team, but maybe they're struggling. Maybe it's a language barrier perspective. From a language barrier perspective, maybe it's a thing of they don't understand the questions, or they're not comfortable, they're nervous. So as an interviewer, you need to also be able to just read the room and understand that, okay, this person, their CV is great, their qualification is also great. And also I think I just want to put in another thing. That's where also references come into play. Like when you do an employment reference, that okay, we know Zanele, how was she? How is she? Does she perform? Does she meet her targets? Is she capable? So we shouldn't just judge in a candidate based on the interview or how they interview. So we shouldn't do it in isolation. That's why, when we recruit employees, we try to look at it holistically, not just from, okay, they just didn't really do well in the interview, but we try to be fair by looking at it from a holistic perspective. So I think that's really great, and I think more companies should look at that option, doing written interviews. I think it would give more candidates opportunity to to try and get into the marketplace.
All right, Zanele Lecage, thank you so much for making time for us. She's a senior talent attraction specialist, chatting to us there about sometimes these bad moments that happen during interviews and how you can recover from that without compromising your entire interview